Hey guys, so I am back with a brand new video, and I kind of figured I'll do something different on my channel and just talk about some awesome drugstore products that I have in my collection, and not just any drugstore products, but just more so eyeshadow palettes, because you guys know eyeshadow palettes are so hard to find in a drugstore, and not even the drugstore, but just overall ones that's just inexpensive. That doesn't include you going to Sephora spending 40 bucks and higher. So if you want to see some eyeshadow palettes that's pretty much under $20, you can find these eyeshadow palettes like online or in a drugstore. Then of course, just keep watching. All right, so starting off, I did mention these eyeshadow palettes are $20 and under. However, I do have one eyeshadow palette that's probably like maybe $22, $23, but I'll explain why that one is more expensive. But starting off, the first one is actually from Wet n Wild. It's their new eyeshadow palettes, and you guys, these color icon eyeshadow palettes are so pretty. They do have different color ones, but I have the one that's called Not a Basic Peach, and when I say, you guys, this eyeshadow palette is so spring appropriate and summer appropriate. And I will say this, Wet n Wild do have really good quality items, and you guys know in the past they pretty much had like the best eyeshadow palettes compared to like other drugstore brands in the past. It was the best in terms of like competition, but it wasn't the best in terms of like everybody, in terms of like your higher end brands, but they did do a good job for like a drugstore price. So again, their new color icon eyeshadow palettes are really pigmented, really pretty, and I'll do a few swatches for you guys so you guys can just see what the color payoff look like. Now I'll be honest, swatching it is not the softest. When swatching it, it does feel kind of gritty, but at the same time, when you apply it on your eyes, it's really pretty, and the pigmentation is definitely there. And I'll actually swatch a matte shadow for you guys so you guys can see what a matte color look like. And here is just what the color payoff look like for these. Again, really pretty colorful eyeshadows, and you guys know, like with any shimmer shade, the boxes just fell, but if you do like wet your brush with any shimmer shades, you can definitely get a more intense color payoff. And that goes for any, you know, eyeshadow palette that's high-end or drugstore. I will say this, the one that's the more like warm tone palette, that one definitely have some really good reviews here on YouTube. I haven't really seen people talk about this one too much, but again, I opted to get this one because I do have a lot of like warm tone eyeshadow palettes in my collection, so that's why I didn't get that one. But I do want to get it because it does have some really good reviews on there. I'll insert a picture so you guys can see what the actual palette looked like for the other one. But again, their eyeshadow palettes are really pretty, and it's super inexpensive. If I can find the prices for these, I'll put the prices in my description box for you guys to check out. So moving on, I'll keep with the whole drugstore trend before we hop to the online items. So the next drugstore eyeshadow palette will be from e.l.f. It's their Matte from Matte eyeshadow palette. First of all, the packaging is so cute and so sleek, and e.l.f. actually has some new eyeshadow palettes in Walmart. They actually have a whole new like display of products at Walmart that I definitely want to get my hands on, and they have some new eyeshadow palettes that look like this in the packaging. So I would definitely try to pick up at least one to kind of review for you guys on my channel. But their Matte from Matte eyeshadow palette is really pretty, you guys. I will definitely say if you are a beginner with makeup, you definitely want to have an eyeshadow palette that have some really good like mattes in there for your transition shades, or just to throw like in your outer V to like deepen up the look of your makeup. So I think this palette is definitely good to have in your collection, and they did a good job for it to be a drugstore option. Is it the most pigmented out there? No. However, it's still a good option for the drugstore, and you guys know e.l.f. is super inexpensive, and I do think for it to be a beginner friendly eyeshadow palette, you will definitely get your money's worth with it, because you can definitely build up the intensity of the eyeshadows. So here are some swatches of the eyeshadow on my hand. So again, really pretty matte eyeshadows, and you guys know sometimes you have eyeshadow palettes that have strictly shimmer shades, or the matte shades that may be in there may not be the most pigmented, or may not be like your cup of tea for your skin tone. So I do think having this palette on hand is really good if you don't want to like dive into like a higher end one like Kat Von D, where she have like her all matte eyeshadow palette. So that's definitely a good drugstore option. And then keeping in trend with the drugstore, I have two in front of me, which is from Milani. You guys know I did a review on these on my channel. I have a link for the video in my description box below. It's the Milani Most Loved Matte Eyeshadow Palette and the Milani Bold Obsessions. Now, I will be honest, in terms of the Milani Most Loved Mattes compared to the e.l.f. Matte for Matte, I would definitely say pick up the Milani one because you do have some colors in here that's not just strictly like your nudes. So as you can see, you actually have like some oranges in here, you have some purples in here, you have your browns in here. So you do have other matte options in this palette, and the pigmentation is definitely better in this eyeshadow palette compared to the e.l.f. one. So let me swatch it for you. The only difference is the Milani one is a little bit more expensive, but again, you're getting a little bit better pigmentation with the Milani ones. So, you know, you gotta pay for quality. That goes for anything. Here is the swatch of the Milani ones. And as you can see, these are so pretty, so pigmented. You have a nice mirror on top. And again, you are paying for the quality. And again, I do have a video on those, well, on this palette, if you guys want to actually see the palette perform, and you can tell for yourself if you like it or not. And then for the Bold Obsessions, again, same palette as the Most Loved Matte. And this one actually has some shimmer shades in here. Now, I did tell you guys, I do have a preference between the two if you don't want to splurge on both. But you have to watch that video to see which one I chose as far as like the one to pick. But again, you do have some mattes in here. You have some shimmer shades in here as well. And I'll just do some swatches for you so you guys can see what the pigmentation of this one looks like. Really pretty colors in here. And here are the swatches on my hand. So again, a really pigmented shimmer shades. And you guys, when you wet your eyeshadow brush with the pigment on it, it is so pretty on the lid, like really pretty. Milani definitely stepped up the bar for eyeshadow palettes for the drugstore when it came out with that collection, because they did a really good job. And of course, Wet n Wild came behind them with these. So super good eyeshadows for the price. And again, these eyeshadow palettes are honestly, what I've mentioned so far is under $15, because I want to say this is either $5 or $6. If you go to Walmart, these are $14, and then the Matte for Matte I think is like $10. So some really good prices for those eyeshadow palettes. And then moving on to like your online items. The first one is, well, actually these three in front of me is actually from the same website called Shop Hush, but the brand is called Bad Habit Beauty because they do have some dupes to like your higher end makeup brands. So I do have three of the palettes that I do love for the moment. And starting off, the first one is by, again, Bad Habit Beauty. It's their Artistry palette. You guys know this palette is the dupe to the Anastasia and Mario like collab that they did a while back. Excuse my palette, it is super dirty and I don't know why. It's like it got dropped or something. But as you guys can see, I have dived into this palette a lot. You do get 12 eyeshadows in this eyeshadow palette. I did do a review and demo using this palette as well on my channel. I will have that in the description box for you guys. But I do love to use this eyeshadow palette when I go to work because it's a really good neutral everyday eyeshadow palette. You can get some really nice looks with this palette. I will do some swatches for you guys on it. I will say some of these eyeshadows in here didn't perform as well as I would have liked. However, I do think for the price it still performed really good. And I'm only saying that because I do have other eyeshadow palettes from Bad Habit Beauty that has performed better than this one. So I'm not saying the eyeshadow palette is horrible. I'm just comparing it to other ones that I have tried from them in terms of it not being like the best. But at the same time, it's still a really good palette. So I don't know if you guys can see those swatches on my hand, but again, really pretty swatches. Again, you do get some fallout with this palette. I don't know if you guys can see a little bit of fallout in here. And then you also get some fallout with the Milani Bold Obsessions, because some of these colors do crumble, but it's nothing that's like horrible or it's gonna kill you. So moving on to the next eyeshadow palette is by Bad Habit Beauty. It's their Solstice eyeshadow palette. This one was a dupe to the Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette. I forgot which one they duped in particular, but here is the actual inside of the palette. Again, I did use this on my channel and I will have that video in the description box for you guys. But when I say this palette was so freaking amazing when I used it, the pigmentation is beyond insane. If you guys can see that, look at that, one swatch. Can you guys see that? It is so pretty. They definitely killed it with this palette. Look at that gold one right there. And then here is a matte color. This red one is a little bit patchy, but you can definitely build up the color. When you start to blend it, it doesn't fade away, which is good. But swatching it, it does appear a little bit patchy, but it's not that patchy when you apply it on the eye. And you guys, when I first played with that eyeshadow palette, I was so blown away because I was just like, wow, compared to the other palettes from them, that one pretty much like blew me out the water. So love that one. And then the last one is from Bad Habit Beauty. It's their Athena eyeshadow palette. This one was a dupe for the Huda Beauty eyeshadow palette. So here is the inside of this one. And again, I do have a video on my channel using this eyeshadow palette. I did tell you guys the color Daring right here, that one I had a lot of fallout with that one. Even when I wet my brush, I did have some fallout. Not as much without wetting the brush, but you still got some. So let's go ahead and swatch some shades for you guys. A few of these in here do crumble also when you swatch it, but again, the pigmentation is amazing when you do apply it on your hand. And let me dive into one more color so you guys can see. And here's what these look like. So again, really pretty. These palettes do retail, I want to say, for $12 because they did up their price. So it does retail for $12, but again, the pigmentation is so amazing. So moving on, the last item is from BH Cosmetics. Now this item is the one, also, you guys, to purchase these, you have to go to Shop Hush. You can either go online or search for it on the app, but it's called Shop Hush, to buy the Bad Habit Beauty brands. But for the last one is by BH Cosmetics. It's their collab with Carli Bybel. Now this particular one, I don't think they sell it anymore because I searched for it on the website. The only one they have is their deluxe one, which is $22.50. But keep in mind with the deluxe, you do get more items than you did with this one. And I want to say when I purchased this one, I don't think it was exactly $20. It's been so long. I don't remember the price, but I think it's $22.50 for the deluxe one, which is not bad because it's not going to break the bank either. But keep in mind, you do get like some blushes in there as well. But here is the eyeshadows. For this particular palette, you have eyeshadows and also some highlighters. And these eyeshadows are super pigmented and so pretty, you guys. And I think compared to the other ones, they don't crumble like the other ones, which is really good. And she did a really good job with this eyeshadow palette. So here is 2 shimmers and 1 matte swatched on my hand. So again, really pretty pigmented colors, and the highlighters in here are so beautiful. Even against my skin tone, it's really pretty. So I do think she did cater to pretty much every skin tone when she created her highlighters for this eyeshadow palette. Let me just swatch the ones that I typically use for my skin tone. Here it is swatched down there on my hand. So again, really pretty pigmentation for the highlighter. And again, that's the only one that's not under $20, but again, it's still affordable because it's $22.50, and you can find it on BH Cosmetics website. So yeah, you guys, that's pretty much my picks for eyeshadow palettes that's under $20 that's worth purchasing. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Again, I will try to go to the drugstore and pick up some new eyeshadow palettes that catch my attention to see if we can add some more to the list. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.